Production funding for Flying Squirrels Insider is made possible in part by Virginia College Savings Plan. Save for tomorrow's higher education expenses with Virginia 529's 4 flexible tax-advantaged college savings plans. Details at virginia529.com. And by the Greater Richmond Chamber Save Low Fares campaign. Richmond is in danger of becoming one of America's most expensive airports again. Flying AirTran, Southwest, and JetBlue supports airline competition. Details at savelowfares.com. And by Haley Buick GMC, located at 9811 Midlothian Turnpike, offering new and pre-owned vehicles, financing options, service, parts, and accessories. HaleyBuickGMC.com, taking it to the streets.
Laying out with a headlong dive. Did he make that catch? It's Laaser. And Laaser with a miraculous catch. Duran kicks and fires. Swing and a miss. He struck him on with a changeup. And the Squirrels are the champs in the West.
Well, once again, welcome to another episode of Flying Squirrels Insider, everybody. Anthony Oppermann with you. And you're going to notice a few things different about this episode. First and foremost, we'll start off by that pearly white Buick Regal brought to you by our friends at Haley Buick GMC. We're excited to have them as part of Flying Squirrels Insider. And also for this episode, no Jon Laaser. He's on the road with the team, but don't worry, you'll get your laser fix. He actually takes you behind the scenes of Team Departure Day. A lot of sleepy squirrels. Laaser's got that coming up later on in the show, but instead we've got some real talent on set today. Sports Radio 910 Zone, Wes McElroy. We're going to break down a little bit of Major League Baseball, take an opportunity to talk about some of the big storylines in MLB to this point in the season with Wes, and also those crazy guys from the Mixed Nut Race. We're going nuts today on Flying Squirrels Insider, so make sure to stay tuned, and also make sure to text FSI to 44544 for your chance to win Flying Squirrel stuff. A lot going on. Keep it tuned right here to Flying Squirrels Insider. Typically, this is the time of the show where we catch up with Jon Laaser, but he's on the road with the team right now up in Reading and Akron. But don't worry, you'll get your laser fix coming up. He takes us inside Team Departure Day. Squirrels, a little weary even before they get on the bus, but just get you through the process of what that is like. But instead, bringing one of the voices of sports here in Richmond, Sports Radio 910 Zone, Wes McElroy. And Wes, first and foremost, thank you so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for the invite, Ops. Appreciate it.
Well, because having you here, I wanted to take the opportunity to maybe talk about some of the storylines from Major League Baseball throughout the first couple of months of the season. Of course, getting close to the All-Star break, that's coming up. Actually, this show will be the last one that airs before the All-Star break. And, there are definitely some storylines from the start of the season that have jumped out. And first and foremost, how about the story of R.A. Dickey with the New York Mets? I mean, who saw this coming? Dickey amongst the league leaders in several categories, including leading the National League in wins. He's right up there in strikeouts, and doing it by throwing the knuckleball, an unconventional pitch. First and foremost, do you think with Dickey's success that we're going to start to see more pitchers maybe start to incorporate the knuckleball into their repertoire?
Probably not, because you have to remember where R.A. Dickey came from. A lot of people look to him as a rookie. R.A. Dickey's been around since 2001, and here's a guy who played 2001, 2003, 2004 in the Rangers farm system, and it wasn't until Oral Hershiser got a hold of him and said, look, your forkball is really a knuckleball. And it took time. I mean, this guy has been bouncing in and out of the majors and the minors. This guy one time, I believe it was 2007 when he was with the Mariners, held the major league record for wild pitches in an inning with 4. So this has taken some time. And he had an above-average year in 2010, 2011. This is magical what we're seeing. This is a guy who's 37 years old, who's now coming into his prime, who understands. And I've heard Buster Olney and a couple other baseball insiders say he throws it harder than anybody else. And while we don't think of 82 to 87 as fast, it is for a knuckleball. This guy is a magical story. I mean, he is 37 years old. He's at 11-2 to date. The Yankees kind of figured him out last Sunday night, but remember, the Yankees, above all teams, see more knuckleball pitchers with Tim Wakefield being a Red Sox for so many years. This guy has been tough to hit. And I don't know if he can keep the magic up all year, but considering that he's gone 11-2 and we're not at the All-Star break yet, I mean, even if he's just above average in the second half, he still is a Cy Young candidate.
Well, that's my next question for you is, the knuckleball and Tim Wakefield certainly exhibited that. Some days it's your best friend, other days it's your worst enemy. You just don't know. It's so inconsistent. Can R.A. Dickey maintain the success throughout the second half of the season?
I don't know if he can maintain success. I mean, we're talking about an 11-2 mark going in as we're talking about this show. So you got to give him some give. He's not going to go, 22-4 in the second half of the season. But if he stays above average and factor in what you just said perfectly, that it is so inconsistent with a knuckleball pitcher, this guy will be a Cy Young candidate. Now then you get into debate. I don't know how long the Mets can hold on. Right now they're 4 games back in the National League East. I don't know if they can hold on. So then you get into that argument, should a Cy Young come from a contender or a non-contender? But right now, I mean, one team has hit well against him. One team, interleague play is done. That team was in the American League. So let's enjoy the ride here in the second half with Dickey.
You bring up the Mets in the standings. We'll get into a little bit more of the National League East standings coming up. But sticking to the pitching theme, obviously with the steroid era behind us, a lot of people are saying now this is going to be the era of the pitcher. And, we're seeing a lot of pitchers throw harder than ever. I mean, there's so many pitchers now that can throw in the mid-90s. You've got the Justin Verlanders, the Steven Strasburgs who light up the radar gun at 100 miles an hour. And to this point, pitching has definitely been a theme in the Major League season. 5 no-hitters, including 2 perfect games to this point. Now, I want to ask you this with the caveat of the fact that any no-hitter is special. Any no-hitter is impressive. Perfect games even more so. But looking at this list, there's some interesting, compelling stories. How about Philip Humber throwing that perfect game against the Seattle Mariners? Here's a guy who was a former top prospect with the New York Mets. He was traded for another guy that threw a no-hitter, Johan Santana. Never quite lived up to his prospect billing. Throws a perfect game with the White Sox. You've got Santana throwing the first no-hitter in New York Mets history.
That's crazy to
You've
think.
got 6 Seattle Mariner pitchers matching a Major League record, working to throw a no-hitter against the Los Angeles Dodgers. And oh, by the way, Matt Cain's perfect game. Is there one of these no-hitters that really stands out to you, though, as the most impressive to this point?
Well, I will agree with you on a lot of things there. I think baseball cleaning up the game has made it a pitcher's game. Really has. I mean, it's just right now, it's pitchers. For years, it was chicks dig the long ball and home runs at 50 and 60 and 70 a pop. It has become a pitcher's league. But let's think about this. We're talking no-hitters. No hits in one game. We're talking perfect games. Magic's got to happen. And that's why I still, as much as we try to explain things in Major League Baseball and in sports, I still find this to be magical. If I had to pick one out of the mix, with all due respect to Matt Cain, because that night he was perfect, and there's not many perfect things in sports, I got to go with June 8th when it was the Mariners, 6 pitchers combining. We're talking 6 pitchers. Kevin Millwood goes down, I believe, in the 6th inning. He has a groin strain, and they're managing the bullpen. Now, how many times have you heard a guy throw a no-hitter and they'll say, well, I didn't realize it till the 7th or the 8th? The bullpen guys out there, they know what's going on. I mean, sometimes bullpen guys they're some of the loopiest guys in sports, and we mean that as compliments. They're knowing what's going on with the game. So each pitcher is coming into the contest as the contest goes along with that pressure, knowing they got to keep up the no-hitter, and they pull this thing off. We've seen this before with 2 guys and 3 pitchers, but 6 pitchers, all due respect to the guys who do it alone. But to combo on 6 on one night, I found that amazing.
Wes McElroy from Sports Radio 910 joining us here on Flying Squirrels this Saturday, talking some Major League Baseball themes to this point in this season. And Wes, one of the big storylines locally with the Washington Nationals has been Bryce Harper. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't think that he could hang around as long as he has. And not only hanging around, but also having some success, tied for the top batting average among NL rookies as we speak with a 280 mark. He's put up some consistent numbers, ranks in the top 10 in several offensive categories amongst National League rookies. Does Bryce Harper stick around in Washington, and is he the shoe-in for National League Rookie of the Year?
I think right now, I don't want to use shoe-in, but I think he's your lead candidate for National League Rookie of the Year. And yes, I am surprised. Seeing him play last year in Richmond and being part of that farm system, he's impressive, but not that impressive where I thought, okay, he's going to be up by the time May rolls around. I've talked to Adam LaRoche, the first baseman of the Washington Nationals. He said, I've never seen a 19-year-old like this. Actually, he said, I've never seen anything like this. And a lot of these national teammates that I've talked to, these guys, it's not so much what he does with the bat or how he hustles in the field. It's the maturity of which he carries himself with, the confidence of which he carries himself with. He's just going through a little bit of a slump here. Had bad 47 at bats, had about 14 strikeouts. He goes into that last game in the Colorado series, pulls himself right out of it. Now, and he has rookie moments. He has rookie moments, but not 19-year-old moments. He knows how to get himself out of jams. But his hustle's incredible. I mean, these plays where he's blooping singles to right field and turning them into doubles. And I love when Cole Hamels threw at him in the beginning part of the season, saying he was old school and welcoming Bryce Harper to the league. If you look at Bryce Harper, he's probably playing the most old school we've seen in Major League Baseball. He's a treat. I thought we would get a cocky, arrogant guy, and I read into and I saw all the face paint and the blown kisses. But this guy is a tough, gritty player, and really he is, to all the credit of the veterans and the Nationals, he's the spark. He's a little edge that they provide, and that's maybe what they needed. They've got the talent with Gio Gonzalez and Steven Strasburg and with Ryan Zimmerman and Michael Morse, but Harper's got that little spunk, that little edge, that little arrogance about him that this team needs, and right now they have not relinquished first place in the National League East to date.
Running a little bit short on time, Wes, but real quickly, we talk about the Washington Nationals. Take a check of the National League East standings. And there you see the Nationals right atop ahead of the Mets, Braves, and then the Marlins and Phillies down toward the bottom. How long do the Nationals stay in first place in the East?
July is going to be a tough month. They've got series. They have 5 games against the Braves, 4 of which are at home. They will play the Phillies. The Mets haven't shaken away. They haven't fallen off. And now they get the red-hot Giants. They'll have them, but luckily they'll have them at home. They'll go on the road. They'll play at New York. They'll also go up against the Marlins, who haven't lived up to their expectations. So July will be a tough month, but honestly, Ops, to date, and the way the schedule is spread out among tough opponents and lesser opponents in the National League, I don't see them falling out in July. I see this team going into September being a legit candidate for the NL East, for the wild card, and at worst, that wild card spot. They're going to be contenders for the rest of the year. And remember, they will eventually get Jason Worth back. And now the big question becomes, the further they go down the road and become contenders, what do you do with that innings limit with Steven Strasburg? That's the great mystery. Wish I had an answer.
Wes, thank you for taking the time. Thank you for being a part of it. Appreciate it. It's nice to have somebody good-looking in the chair to my left to kind of compensate for myself with Lace.
Lace, he said that. I appreciate the invite.
You had Wes McElroy from Sports Radio 910 sitting in for Jon Laaser, but don't worry, Lace is coming up. He takes us in depth and behind the scenes of Team Departure Day. Stick around, the Flying Squirrels Insider.
Production funding for Flying Squirrels Insider is made possible in part by Virginia College Savings Plan. Save for tomorrow's higher education expenses with Virginia 529's 4 flexible tax-advantaged college savings plans. Details at virginia529.com. And by the Greater Richmond Chamber Save Low Fares campaign. Richmond is in danger of becoming one of America's most expensive airports again. Flying AirTran, Southwest, and JetBlue supports airline competition. Details at SaveLowFares.com. And by Haley Buick GMC, located at 9811 Midlothian Turnpike, offering new and pre-owned vehicles, financing options, service, parts, and accessories. HaleyBuickGMC.com, taking it to the streets.
Welcome back to Flying Squirrels Insider. Today we take you on the road with us as the Squirrels prepare for their longest road trip of the season. We're about to head out to Reading, Pennsylvania. Then after that, Akron, Ohio. And finally back here for the Diamond, where we'll see you on July 4th. Actually a perfect day for the Flying Squirrels to be getting out of town. For those that didn't hear, we had a little bit of an incident at the ballpark a couple of days back. Mother Nature intervened and actually blew a portion of our ballpark down. But if it's going to happen, and we're always silver lining people here at the Diamond, this was a perfect day because the team about to head out for 8 days again to Reading and Akron. Wall will be fixed when we get back, and everybody will be ready for the 4th of July celebration, which will be the next time we see you. We're going to bring in Squirrels bus driver Jack Newman. We know him simply as the Man because he holds every land speed record that there is in the Eastern League. Mr. Newman, first question for you on this hard-hitting investigation. You've been known to break a few speed limits.
No, sir. The bus is governed at 70 mile an hour. Speed limit is 65, so can't break it too hard.
Tell us about this vessel that we're riding on to Reading, Pennsylvania today. It's Abbott Bus Lines, who've been with the Squirrels since the beginning, but this is actually a sleeper coach.
Yeah, it sleeps 24. It guys seem to enjoy it, and it comes in handy for them.
You've been doing this for quite a number of years. You've been the Squirrels bus driver since day one. Who's the biggest pain in the butt outside of me? You can say Johnny Manel.
Pretty close. No, they all a great bunch of guys. They really are. This is the best.
Put the lie detector on them.
I'm serious. They are the best team I've carried.
Do you mind if we take a look inside?
No, sir. Help yourself.
All right, let's go. We're going to take you right inside the Flying Squirrels Express minutes before they depart for Reading, Pennsylvania, their longest road trip of the season. Come on with us. Now, every baseball bus has its own set of written rules in many cases, but unwritten rules in many cases. I'm sitting right here in what is known as the broadcaster's seat. In just a second, we'll see why this bus is a little bit different than your standard coach bus. But one thing is always the same. You always have your slotting system for seats. They always remain unchanged unless the roster turns over, but that never happens for broadcasters. So here we are, third seat back on the right. The only way you can defer from that is if you're third seat back on the left. It'll go manager, hitting coach, radio broadcaster on the right, pitching coach, athletic trainer, strength coach on the left, chaos after that. As we go back on the Squirrels Express here, as you can see, this is set up a little bit differently than your average coach bus in that the baggage compartments, which you'll usually find up top, are actually bunks for the guys. As Jack told us, he sleeps 24. Now, it's a give and take if you have one of these bunks, because if you have a bunk, when we're traveling overnight or when you're tired, you can lay down and get some shut-eye. But if you have a bunk, you don't have a seat. Now, what this bus has that most buses don't have is facing seats. The guys like to use these. They'll play cards. They'll pop a card table in right here, maybe over here as well. Not sure what games they're playing today. It's different than the ones that you and I played back when. Then back here, these bench seatings, you can actually pull these cushions out. These make nice flat beds as well. Some of the younger guys wind up in these beds down on the floor. Those vibrate a little bit. And then we have our lounge area back here. This is where we do our entertaining if we ever invite anybody onto the bus, which has never happened to this point. We have our big screen TV. You can actually hook up a video game system, which some of the guys will do. We'll put a PlayStation in here and get some RBI baseball going, or whatever the newfangled game is these days. Here we've got video coordinator Jeremy Fagelman getting ready to go on the road trip. He's excited. He actually has one of these bunks up here. He's the only video guy in the Eastern League with his own bunk. He sits right above me and annoys me for most of the trip. We share snacks and stuff like that, trail mix. But the reason that he's up top here is because, as I told you before, with the seating system, video travel is a little bit new in baseball, and baseball travel has been slow to adjust. None of us really wanted to give up the system of coach, coach, radio, coach, coach, trainer on the other side. So you go where you go. Otherwise, as far as the seats are concerned, it's all done by service time. So if you've been in AA longer than a guy, which is the Squirrels level, you can take a seat. If you've been into the big leagues and you're back down at the AA level, you can take anybody's seat. We're joined now by one of the newest Squirrels, infield outfielder Russ Mitchell, also known as the hottest thing in town. Mitch, how you doing this morning? I know you had to do some things this morning. This is an early one for you.
Yeah, it was. I had to get up at 6, take the rental car back. This is part of the business, part of the life. I'm used to it by now. I've been doing this for 10 years, so this protocol.
Now, I was just explaining to our audience on Flying Squirrels Insider here the unwritten rule of who gets to sit where on the bus, and it's all according to service time. You've been on a number of different teams at a number of different levels. That's pretty standard across the board, isn't it?
Besides this team, apparently they don't look at 27-year-old and 29-year-olds don't get to lay down on the bus, but that's going to change this trip. We're going to make some changes around here. Okay, well, would you like to fill us in on who's going to lose their seat? Probably Johnny. There's a good chance I'm going to kick Tommy out, so we'll get rid of the 2 catchers and make them sit somewhere else. Hottest thing in town. We appreciate you being with us. No problem. Russ Mitchell, formerly of the Dodgers organization, the Miami Marlins organization, now a Flying Squirrel. He's with us. Oh, before we let you go, the wall came crashing down yesterday. See anything like that? No, that was unbelievable. I was taking it upon myself to run off the field, but luckily they called the game and got us off the field in time. But just another day in Richmond.
Well, we told you at the very beginning of this show that our goal was to introduce you to some of the characters that roam the ballpark and hang out at the Diamond. Well, I think we're going to achieve that goal here today as our guest interview, not just one, but three. We're going nuts. The members of the Buick GMC Mixed Nut Race join us here. We've got Johnny Cashew, John Walnut, and Peanut. Gentlemen, first and foremost, thank you for taking time out of your busy day to come join us here on Flying Squirrels Insider.
It's our pleasure.
Mr. Cashew, I wanted to start with you. Bill Papierniak, who does the announcing, always says that you're straight from Folsom Prison. I just wanted to know, what did you do to end up in Folsom Prison and what that experience was like for you?
Well, it's a common misconception that I was in the pen for some reason. But the real reason is because I was there just performing. The inmates, they really understand my songs, and I like to perform for them. So there wasn't really anything that I did, per se, that got me put into jail. I just went there.
John Walnut, on loan from the Washington Wizards, as Mr. Papierniak likes to say. What is it about Richmond that inspires you to come down here from D.C., and when are you guys going to turn things around up there with the Washington Wizards?
Well, actually, I don't actually make a commute from D.C. every day. Your esteemed colleague, you know him very well, Scott Belusowitz, was kind enough to put me up in his apartment for the duration of the season. It's not the mansion that I'm used to, but it's livable. As for the situation up in Washington, my agent has advised me not to comment on what's going on, but being that I'm going to fire him anyway, let me just say this. As soon as my teammates realize that I'm the playmaker, me, and not them, we'll start winning games. They don't have to score. I can do that.
Who knew? Arrogance among nuts. Now, speaking of which, I don't know if people have noticed, but Johnny Cashew, John Walnut, I mean, both of you named John. Does that create any friction between the two of you? I mean, especially considering by just the looks, you're very different nuts.
We are. We're different nuts. We have different names. This little guy over here, he's young. He'll learn that that name comes with respect.
And of course, we've got Peanut, and I would hate to leave you out, but unfortunately, Peanut, these guys are so flash and dash and all their pomp and circumstance that sometimes you get overlooked and shouted. You don't have the fancy nickname. Does that bother you at all?
I do get overlooked. It doesn't bother me one bit. They can have the show on the field when we're running. It's fine by me because back behind the scenes when we're getting ready, everybody's calling my name, not theirs.
Johnny Cashew, John Walnut, and Peanut, the mixed nuts from the Mixed Nut Race. Fellas, you guys really go after it during the nut race, especially this year. Is that real? I mean, or is this maybe some acting for the entertainment value? Because we have had some legends of wrestlers come out. Have you guys picked up any tips from them, or is this all just full-out nut mania?
Oh, it's all full go. We don't hold anything back, give the fans what they want. I've had several injuries this year, actually. I mean, you've been...
My right arm, I had to go to the doctor because I tore something in there.
I've actually
These two guys, they broke their shells. They had shell fractures. They just got repaired. Hopefully they'll be ready for the 4th.
Peanut, I've noticed a significant improvement in your numbers this year as the previous 2 years. First 2 years, just one victory. This year, you're already up to double digits with 10. What's been the big secret for you?
Off-season workouts. I really bulked up in the off-season. I know many people have heard of P90X. I went with the P-Nutty-X. It's a great workout. I actually had to stop for a while due to my shell fractures, but I really think I stepped up my game in the off-season.
Well, gentlemen, we've already talked about how you guys go all out with this nut race. What are you racing for? I mean, what's the grand prize at the end of the year?
I do it for pride. I want to give the fans something that they want to come back to.
I race for me and me alone. I'm the best. Need to make everybody know it.
I just race for the little guy.
Johnny Cashew, John Walnut, Peanut, thank you guys for taking the time. Do appreciate it. You boys be safe out there, all right? We're about out of time here on Flying Squirrels Insider. Be sure to text FSI to 44544 for your chance to win free Flying Squirrels stuff. And we certainly want to thank our guests for today, the Mixed Nuts, as well as Sports Radio 910's Wes McElroy for filling in for Jon Laaser. And for everybody here at the Community Idea Stations, if only you knew what went into this week's episode. Thank you guys so much, as well as our sponsors, Haley Buick GMC. Be sure to catch us next time here on Flying Squirrels Insider. And I think there's just one thing left to do. Boys, on your mark, get set, go nuts!
Production funding for Flying Squirrels Insider is made possible in part by Virginia College Savings Plan. Save for tomorrow's higher education expenses with Virginia 529's 4 flexible tax-advantaged college savings plans. Details at virginia529.com. And by the Greater Richmond Chamber Save Low Fares campaign. Richmond is in danger of becoming one of America's most expensive airports again. Flying AirTran, Southwest, and JetBlue supports airline competition. Details at savelowfares.com. And by Haley Buick GMC, located at 9811 Midlothian Turnpike, offering new and pre-owned vehicles, financing options, service, parts, and accessories. HaleyBuickGMC.com, taking it to the streets.